Listen up. If you love musicals, if you love hip hop, if you love diversity, and if you love Holocaust narratives, then you have shown up on the right place because this is the Slam Frank page where we give sneak previews of our brand new Anne Frank musical. I'm going to give you a little sneak preview of our opening number right now. Here we go. Dear Kitty, Kitty's what I call my diary. I'm a chronicle every thought I got inside me. Plot my life out on this autobiography. If you wanna clap me, first you gotta find me. The year's 1942, and this diary is who I tell my stories to. Just a day my daddy dragged us into hiding. Instead of getting sad, I'ma put it all in writing. Yeah, I'ma write it all out in my diary. Hey, follow for more.
Okay, wait. So I get on stage. So whatever. I go up there. I get on stage, and I do my whole song and dance or whatever. But when I walked in, it was getting protested. I didn't know why though. And then I realized that it's a Miriam Adelson thing.
Oh.
Which we're fans. No, okay. But here's the thing. This is where I wanna, because we're not gonna talk about the politics of it here. I get off stage, and I crush on stage. I do very well on stage. It's me, whatever panel. I get introduced to Miriam Adelson.
Wow.
And she shakes my hand. I shake her hand, and she goes, "You're very, very funny, very energetic." So I'm a fan. Okay, you know what? We're pro Miriam Adelson here. Okay, you find me another warlord who thinks I'm funny. If I made Hamas laugh in a room, I guarantee you, I'd be like, okay, maybe we should give back the West Bank or whatever. Anyways, today,
Holy shit!
Today we are coming you live from the Problem Attic, the New York Times. We're doing an special interview with Andrew Fox, Andrew Fox, Alex Lewis, Joe, Sinensky. I was so
very close. Everyone gets it wrong the first time.
Yeah, the more Jewish our names get,
yes,
the less Jewish we become.
It's true.
That's it.
That's very true. Yeah.
It's because we have to hide ourselves in an attic.
Exactly.
Which is actually a pretty good segue, I think, to the fact I'm standing in front of probably the most controversial Jews currently in media. The Slam Frank creative crew. Slam Frank has taken over Broadway and the internet and the Jewish community at the same exact time. I've been watching the rise from the Instagram account that was viral. For those of you who don't know, I would say last summer around.
Hold on, I'm so sorry. Are these plugged in?
Yeah, they're plugged in.
Great.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
I think they're plugged in.
Holy ADD, bad man.
This is just a pizza box. That's
Sorry, get back into it.
Okay. So last year I started getting a bunch of, Instagram videos, TikTok videos of this guy sitting at his piano, doing music for a musical that he was talking about. And the way that he would describe the musical was that this was Slam Frank, a reimagined version of Anne Frank, an inclusive version where Anne Frank is reimagined as Anita Franco, a pansexual Latina immigrant who is struggling to connect to her roots. The other roles in the musical are changed. Peter Van Damme is bisexual, for instance.
Non-binary, actually.
Non-binary, and I apologize for that. This
Please.
podcast, New York Times, is going to get canceled after this episode.
It's true.
But you were just playing music in your living room, bedroom, whatever.
Our father's sins make up the stuff of history. Our pedigrees are etched into our scars. The past's the only way of understanding who we'll be. Destiny is in our veins, it's not written in the stars. Whoa, whoa. Me llamo Anita, escribiendo un diario.
Which begged the question, is Slam Frank a real musical? And the answer I found out was
No.
just a beautiful account. The answer is yes. And we started talking, and then you were like, is it a real musical? I got 16 songs. And all of a sudden I was kind of like introduced to this like larger concept of Slam Frank. So individually, can you just introduce yourselves. What is your role with the production? And yeah, we'll go from there. So
Well, why don't we start with the man of the hour here?
yeah.
I'm Andrew Fox. This is my fault.
Mhm.
I am the bad one, and then there are all the subsequent levels of enabling.
Yeah.
So basically, I had this thing pop into my head around 2022, I think, and like all terrible thoughts. It bubbled up in my head, and I was very amused. And then it was supposed to do what all my other bad thoughts do and float away.
That's right.
And it just kind of stuck there, like a fucking
What's
house
the worst
guest.
like musical thought that you've had that hasn't come to fruition?
The very first musical I ever tried to write was I was in middle school and Columbine had just happened.
Oh God!
And I wrote a musical where the opening scene was a school shooting.
Oh my God.
Not even the opening scene. It was like a prologue was a school shooting. And then everything was kind of like going backwards from there.
Oh my God.
And it was a comedy.
Forrest, I have to say, it's unbelievable how unsurprised I am by this. It's like I'm so immune now to Andrew's ideas that I hear that I'm just like, oh yeah, that sounds like something you'd think of.
Oh my God! Wait, what was the chorus from the opening song?
I don't know. It was not good.
Yeah,
I was in middle school. I
I'm
got
like hearing
26.
this. I want to make it.
I got 26 pages in, large font. And then I just kind of abandoned it. But it floated.
That's how Kinky Boots got started.
It floated in my head. And
Right after John Bonet died. No.
Cindy Lauper found out about John Benet Ramsey.
And then it wouldn't go away.
Yeah.
And about a year and a half later, I started pitching it to like people I knew.
Wait, let's back up for a second.
Yeah.
Because I want to get the full. Okay, wait. I want to get the full story of the history of this, but you also. There's two other people here that do think need to get introduced.
Yes.
Alex.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. 'Cause I
Sure.
wanna- yeah.
So, I mean, talk to Joel first because
Okay.
he's
Yeah,
we
also
can go
created
chronologically.
Yeah.
So
I got the idea. I called Joel.
yeah,
Boom.
Andrew called me, and I've known Andrew since 8th grade. We've known each other for a very long time, and he called me in the spring of 2023 to pitch the idea to me to write it with him.
Got it. And
Which
what piece of art did you create after Columbine?
What did you ever do?
Just a lyric poem, you know, not a musical. That's way too far.
Just a dark comedy haiku or two.
But Andrew came to me to ask me if I wanted to write the book for the musical, which in musical theater terminology is basically all the scenes that are not musical, that are not songs. And yeah, he pitched me the idea. I thought it was completely insane. But my career in LA was kind of in the toilet, so I was just like, sure, I'll write this with you. And then we started writing it together. Then in 2023.
This is not more insane than Yellow Jackets, I'd say.
No,
Just,
I would
you know.
agree.
And then you come
Yes.
along.
So a friend of ours, Ari Stidham, was producing it at the time. And I sent him a draft of this movie that I wrote called Santa Saves Hanukkah. And it's very dark and very offensive. It's also a musical. And he read it and said,
Takes place at Parkland.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's fun. I should send it to you.
Yeah, I want to. Yeah.
So Ari read that script and then said, "You've got to read Slam Frank." And I was like, okay. And this is back in 2024. And I read it and thought it was like the most amazing thing I'd ever read. And he was like, we're doing a staged reading of it. Or not even, it was just a table read. He's like, we're doing a table read at Ripley Greer in New York City if you want to do it. And I was like, yeah. And so I flew myself out, like paid my own money, stayed in a hotel and everything just because I loved the project that much. And I played Peter in the original table read. And from there, we attempted to put up a concert reading of it in Los Angeles at a place called the Bourbon Room, which didn't survive. Like we were about to put tickets on sale, and then the LA fires happened, and then they sold the Bourbon Room, and now it just like doesn't exist.
Oh my God! Do you think that was not God telling you, like, hey, maybe you should?
No,
Yeah.
God was telling us to go to New York.
Well,
Wait, so
in every step of the way that I've been involved with this project, people have told me you shouldn't do this project. Like, I sent it to my manager. He read the script and he was like, Alex, I'm just going to tell you straight up. I think it could be one of the most genius things ever. It's really great. That being said, you are walking a very tight line and any misstep could be the worst thing for your career. You're still establishing yourself. I don't know about this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The whole 2 years we were writing it, I never told my agents I was working on this at all because I knew what they would say. I knew they would be like, this is a horrible idea. Don't do this. Who is this guy, Andrew Fox? Like we've never heard of him. It just was like, I just knew,
Yeah.
I knew exactly what they would say, so I just never told them anything about it.
Well, I mean,
I told everyone.
and I named them.
Yeah.
Like, don't listen to their agents. They were
Joel and Alex came to me with this great idea.
Wait, so here's the question though. 2022,
Yeah.
that's the instigating event to kind of like start the process. So what was that instigating
Well,
event?
I mean, that was that. So I realize you're setting up a question. So, of course, there was a tweet that was, did Anne Frank ever acknowledge her white privilege? And it was a sincere tweet. And there were thousands of sincere answers to it. There were TikToks. It was all over Instagram
In
and
Vox,
Reddit.
if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
wrote
no.
like an article about it.
Yeah, it was everywhere. And there were a lot of people with actually very sincere takes on it before the irony happened. And of course, because of the nature of the internet now, it's so overstuffed that almost everything has been deleted. All you can see now is like a few screenshots and then all of the ironic or critical responses. But it was a moment where hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people weighed in to say things like, I can't believe they had me crying over Anne Frank. I can't believe they had me crying over a white girl, a Becky. She has no idea what it was like for me, a black girl growing up in the suburbs.
Let me just say, as someone that grew up with Jewish people, my sisters are Jewish, probably look a little bit like Anne Frank. That was what kept me from feeling bad in that whole story.
They looked like
Yeah,
she
they
looked
too
like
much
your
my
sister.
sisters. I was like, yeah, they're assholes.
I mean, look, you know, she was a 13-year-old girl, so it's like, you know, when
which
she,
is the
she had-
funniest thing.
she packed. She was like, oh God, I'm going to hiding from the Nazis. What should I pack? Well, I got to pack my curlers. You know.
Well, I mean, there was recently I reread Anne Frank, which is hilarious that this, put me on that path. But I reread Anne Frank, and what is kind of funny is that, like, in the text, like, she's like a 13-year-old girl, obviously, like, thinking, writing,
Yeah.
whatever. But there are moments. Peter Van
Yeah.
Damme comes in, and then she's just like, oh, this
Yeah.
fucking guy.
She
like,
hates him.
She hates them in the beginning, which is hilarious because they're trying to, like, escape the Nazis outside.
Did you just non-binary him in
Oh,
real life?
Yeah, but it's they. That's the only version of it that I see right now.
Yeah, of course.
So the tweet goes out. It goes a little bit viral. This gets you thinking. You're also in the musical theater scene at this point. Okay, I will take that. But she was like a teenage girl with natural
Angsty.
teenage. Yeah, have you ever met teenagers? They're the meanest people
Oh, yeah.
alive.
Yeah, they're
Can
the
you
worst.
can you imagine
Can you
though if Diary of a Young Girl had been written by a 13-year-old boy though?
Oh yeah. First of all, 4 pages.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would not
It
be.
would have
would
been
be
4
pictures of
pages.
dicks.
Yeah.
The issue is that he'd learn about jerking
Like,
off on the
he
second.
could have been-
Just
and
give up.
Yeah, like they're like, oh, she could have been such a great prolific writer. And if it was a guy, he would have been such a great illustrator of dicks.
Yeah, Anne Frank. Oh my God, what if it was just Anne Frank's diary, but Peter got to it at one point and just like wrote a bunch of things. Here's what I will say also, before we go on all this. I'm the grandson of Holocaust survivors. Now, does that give me the ultimate say on what is right or wrong?
Yes,
about the
yes.
Holocaust? 100%.
Yes.
I am the king of the Jews, as we all know. But I'm saying, like, there is this thing where I grew up, my family was very funny. And the Holocaust was a very big part of us growing up. My mom used to talk about the Holocaust all the time. This is absolutely my mom said. I think it's one of the funniest things I've ever heard. One time, my grandmother was very, very, like, always properly dressed, always dressed to the nines. And my mom, very seriously, one time out of nowhere, just went, Eitan, in Auschwitz, your grandmother, she was in Barrack 13, but she was always in Barrack 14 because they had the better mirror. So, like, this is what I grew up with. I grew up with this. I remember, so I went to Jewish school in New Jersey. There was the Kushner school was, like, doing some Holocaust, like, fundraising thing. And they made a cookbook that was the Holocaust survivor cookbook. Like, that was like the
Now
name
is
of it or
that
something.
that's in bad taste.
100%. Well, then I
It's
remember
just-
my dad.
It's just thin, grassy
Yeah, what's
soup.
in it?
My dad-
Everything's thin, grassy
The
soup.
Holocaust survivor cookbook.
It was something. It was like Holocaust cook. It was like it said Holocaust and cookbook.
Wait, is this
in the
like a
same-
Twilight Zone episode where they're cooking Holocaust survivors?
That's what that was the
How
first
would you-
thing I
oh,
thought
yeah.
of.
It actually sounds. It
How
sounds like a
to
diet
serve.
plan. The
Yeah.
Holocaust diet plan. The Holocaust survivors cookbook.
As we all know, Eretz Hadar, it's the Slim
Yeah.
they got it. So, but my dad, I remember joking very loudly with the people that had wrote it. Is like, how many ways are there to cook a potato?
Wait, we're getting potatoes?
Yeah. It was a special Thursday, But like that's the way I grew up. So, I had cancer when I was a kid. Whenever I do cancer jokes on stage, the people that have issues with it are people that are not cancer survivors. The people that are cancer survivors or like have gone to child funerals or whatever. They're the ones that are into it, which I think is also something that I immediately gravitated to with this, where it's like, the Holocaust is a very real, significant thing. Large portions of my family wiped out because of the
Sure.
Holocaust. Then this comes along and it slams the concept through the door almost. Okay, so you're in the theater scene at that point.
Barely.
You were.
I am on my way out.
But the theater scene obviously is more liberal. It's the demos that would take a question like.
I mean, I would say that I would distinguish between liberal, left, and progressive are kind of different things, and I would say that liberal is kind of fundamentally you can be a conservative and be a liberal, and you can be a progressive and be a liberal, and it's very much about like, what are the voting rights? What is the free speech culture? What are you motivated by, and what will you allow? Liberal is kind of about what will you allow.
Yeah.
And the theater scene had turned into this thing where I would say they had left-leaning and progressive politics, but where they were actually quite illiberal.
Yeah.
And there was so much that you couldn't say, that you couldn't do, that you couldn't be. And so that's kind of the world that I was in. And as you can imagine, if you're the kind of person who would write Slam Frank, that is a world where either you are not moving forward or you are not being true to yourself.
Yeah. So you're in that scene, the tweets and everything that come out. So talk to me about just like Slam Frank in general. Like when you made it, like what was the idea for it? Like I mean, even to the audience who hasn't seen it, like now is what do you create?
I mean the fundamental idea is it's almost like a science experiment, which is we have all of these rules. If you go back to 2022, we have all of these rules for who is marginalized, who isn't, who is allowed to speak on things, who isn't. You can change the race or gender or sexuality of a character in this direction, but you can't change it in this direction, and it's all along this like single line spectrum, right? It's not complicated. It's actually quite simple. And don't you know the rules? You should know the rules.
And if you don't know the rules, you can't work anymore.
Yeah, you just have to be a good person. Why aren't you being a good person right now? So there are all of these different things, and there's also like this way of making shows, and this way of marketing shows, and this way of casting shows, and it's becoming locked in. And the concept of the play is sort of, well, what if we just follow those rules completely with the Diary of Anne Frank? And there are all of these people who are very insistent on putting a message onto it and saying, oh, they're trying to say this, or they're trying to make fun of this. And look, are we making fun of a lot of stuff? Yes, but the fundamental idea is it's a science experiment.
Yeah.
And it's us going, you've said that these are the rules and that they should be followed this way. So I'm going to apply them, and I want to see how it feels. And it turns out that like, rather than being this kind of like single message piece, there are places where it actually works quite well. And you go like, oh my God, these experiences are so similar. And then there are other places where it breaks apart. And I think that's where the fun is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a big thing that me and Andrew were both responding to is this feeling that we both had with political art, where it was very much like any political art is like, isn't this so nice? Here's what we think, and here's what you think, and aren't we all just saying exactly what each other thinks? And isn't this nice that we all have no friction? There's no contrast. It's just we all think the same thing, and we're regurgitating what we think. And as Andrew said, by following this science experiment to its limit, it ends up having all these kind of knotty tendrils of thought where you're not totally sure what you're supposed to think by the end. You're not sure what you agree with. And to me, that's more reflective of the modern world and the modern political landscape than something like simple and clean, which is what a lot of political art has become in the last decade or plus.
Yeah, it's almost like every character is so base in such an aggressive way, in a way that you don't follow in normal. You're not just saying the joke, you're yelling the joke. Every sentence is a yelling the joke. It's like, everyone's want, immediately what everyone's want is, when everyone's relationship is with the other characters, which is an interesting way to go about it, where like there are no rules to it. It's like, you want a base? Yeah. We got base here, which leads to, arguably one of the most offensive or non-offensive, musicals of all time. What kind of came out of there. you're one of the interesting things about the way that the musical is constructed is that you're not watching Slam Frank. You're watching the production of Slam Frank,
Mhm.
which is introduced by a character. Tell me about the character that writes Slam Frank in the musical. So just for people who haven't seen it, it starts with the theater director coming out there and explaining what Slam Frank is, and then you go into Slam Frank. So talk to me a little bit about just like that character of who makes it.
Well, the character, I mean, every actor has a different take on him. When I do him, he sort of talks like this. And he's the kind of person who grew up pretty well off, and he's got a lot of he's the kind of person who's like, I have a PhD in comedy. I have a master's degree in commedia dell'arte, and I am going to speak for the poor and the downtrodden. It's that kind of person. It's the kind
He's a
of
woke savior, white woke savior. He's a savior dude. He's the white dude, in theater.
Yeah, it's in theater. It's in all art. It's like anyone who works in the arts runs into these people who are like so self-important and have this feeling that what they're doing is so meaningful and they're making such powerful change, and they don't see how clownish they can be in thinking that.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like we just took that idea of that character and we're like, what is a musical he would write?
Hi, I'm the composer of Slam Frank, a brand new Anne Frank hip-hop musical. Today we're here to talk about how Anne Frank's embrace of her Latinx roots is told through musical development. Now, I've already shown how that happens in the melody. For example, when her abuela says to her, Anita, and introduces this two-note motif. But there's also something that happens not melodically, but in the accompaniment that shows the transformation of Anne. When we open in 1942, Anne Frank has fully assimilated into Dutch culture. She has forgotten her Latinx roots. And so we get this neo-soul thing. She gon' write it all out in her diary, hey. It's this very mid-2000s neo-soul, and it's just a 4-3-2. There's really nothing Latinx about that until she sings a song called Rewrite My Diary when she is getting ready to publish her diary. And now the rhythm, it's a little bit different. Same chords, but it goes like this. And then, as that song continues, we introduce for the first time in the score a montuno. Then at the end of that song, that's when her abuela shows up and goes, Anita! And then a few scenes later, abuela pulls Anita into the past, back to Germany, back to Frankfurt, back to the Franco hacienda. And what happens is the montuno is now two-handed. So now it is an authentic Latinx montuno. But Anne Frank has not yet integrated this memory into who she is. And it's not until she pulls it back into the present and vows that she will not write her diary in the language of colonizers. Instead, she will write it in Spanish. And that's when we get that montuno over a reggaeton beat, which you can't hear because I don't have drums, but you'll have to imagine it. So she goes, Me llamo Anita, escribiendo en diario, straight from the barrio. I ain't sorry, so if you don't know Espanol, you'll hear no sick flows. Listen, gringos, I speak the lingua.
I would literally get pitches that were like, we are elevating, we're doing a workshop of a musical about a trans Syrian refugee who just wants to make music on the New York City subway. Like this would be like every project. And it's just always some like, let's be real. It's rich, white, 50% of the time Jewish, somebody who grew up in the suburbs who doesn't know anybody like this person and who is determined to make art like this that nobody wants to see.
It's like the vibe I got off it was that like being so wanting to be the victim so bad that you make yourself so empathetic that you are the one that is hurting because of other injustices in the world. It's like you are the only way that I'm not being centered. I'm not being centered right now. So what I'm going to do is not center myself, but really talk about how much I am not centering myself in the project. The guy, you play this character. So the character, So woke theater guy, writes this musical, wants to make an inclusive version of Anne Frank, and and then Slam Frank kind of happens with it. Obviously, we're not going to go into the specifics of the musical itself, obviously go out there and watch it and all that stuff. Talk to me a little bit about like the Instagram rise of, what was it like when you were putting the music up and it started to take off?
Yeah, so kind of from the beginning, I had always wanted to make an Instagram account. Well, really a TikTok account, but then the TikTok didn't take off, so we took off on Instagram. I'm getting distracted. Where were we?
Yeah.
From the beginning, I had conceived of this as kind of a multi-medium project where it could be, if anyone's considering investing, it's really a 360 kind of scenario where there's a stage play, there is a social media account that is a performance art piece around that is about how art is marketed. And then there is, there are all different ways of doing it, but the concept behind the Instagram was just, I believe in this project in universe and I am pitching it.
Yeah.
Because there were at the time, so the way things were being marketed online was insane. I still remember, it's been scrubbed from the internet, but I still remember K-pop. It was failing because people who liked K-pop, the genre, were like, yeah, why would I go see a Broadway musical?
There was a Broadway musical called K-pop?
There was a Broadway musical called K-pop.
And I did not know about.
And
it failed?
Many people don't.
Well,
yeah, many people don't know. So it was like,
that's on them, by the way. The idea that they weren't able to market a K-pop, Broadway musical in 2020, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever.
I mean, let's be real and get distracted by this topic for a second. If you're making something in an art form that moves so quickly, like K-pop, that means by the time you've developed the musical and gotten it on its feet, you're already in a new generation of hip hop.
Yeah.
So you're like opening a hair metal musical in 1996, right? That's kind of what it is. And then you're going to fans of hair metal and going like, do you want to see a Broadway musical? And they go, no, I can just see real hair metal.
Yeah.
But I can't because that's already 6 years old. That's what happened with K-pop. And then they were like, why doesn't anybody want to see our musical? It's because they're racist. And fucking every Korean I know was like, I don't know, I heard it was bad, so I didn't go. And then the actors would go on their Instagrams crying about the show, being like, if you aren't supporting this show, you're a bigot. This is changing the world. This is bringing justice. And I'm like, that's what I need to make. I need to make, if you don't come to see my musical, then you are making the world a worse place. Now give me your money.
What is interesting about Slam Frank is that the marketing materials are just shot in your room, basically. Like there isn't much more to it.
They're in my room. They're in my in-laws' basement.
It's like nothing.
They're like Alex and I will be on like a bike ride, and then we'll get an idea and we'll just film it there.
So then, why is Broadway marketing failing? I mean, if you've been able to sell out,
because they're all fucking morons. I'll give you I'll give you some good quotes. Number one, they're fucking morons. These people are absolute morons, and they have no ethics. And so, for example, the marketing department behind Dead Outlaw, the social media team, they outright said, I don't get this show. And it's like, well, if you don't get this show, why the fuck are you marketing it? You've got one of the best musicals that's been made in 10 years. And you don't know how to sell it, you shouldn't be in this fucking business. Look up his name. Look up whoever did this right now. Look up their name. Look up their name. Look up their name and buy that motherfucker a ticket to the middle of fucking nowhere, because that's where they should be living.
Why is like happily ever ending or happily,
maybe happy ending.
That's going well. Catherine Quinn is an innovator in the field. And she's doing really, really well. She bills, she gets like $1 million in billings every year because she understands how social media works and she takes on accounts that she cares about. So Broadway social media, one, it's the people who are really good at social media. They do it for themselves. They don't do it for Broadway. Unless you're doing like, oh, Mary, that's a good team, right? The other thing is that Broadway is, and theater in general is run by, you've always got a generation above you and a generation above them and a generation above them, and everybody's very risk averse. And so instead of going out there and changing things, you've got everything being workshopped by the marketers, and then the marketing director, and then the producers, and then the producer's wife, and then the friend of the producer's wife, and it just keeps going. And so you end up with a product that is kind of watered down, meaningless. And then on top of that, you have these teams where they'll bring on like a team of 22-year-olds who know how to do their Instagram. You know, I talked to, having Slam Frank blow up meant that I got a lot of lunch meetings with marketing people who were like, how the fuck are you doing it? I'm like, I don't know. I make what I want.
Right.
And I was like, tell me the demographics of your social media
Crazy.
team.
So
And almost every
yeah.
single one said 5 white girls and a gay black guy.
Yeah. Which, by
Right.
the way, I think a
That-
second
I've
season
watched
of it on
that porn.
Netflix, I would watch that.
5 white girls and a gay black guy.
And a pizza restaurant.
That is a miscast Pornhub video.
But
He shows up and he's like, well, I can't do anything with them.
yeah.
To me, I mean, I can speak to this a little bit outside of it because me and Andrew wrote the show together, but really it was Andrew and Alex running the social. To me, the reason it really caught on in the way it did, a big reason is because it really was, number one, a piece of art, and number one, a piece of creative expression. And the advertising or marketing of the show was sort of secondary to this living art piece that Andrew was creating. And so much marketing you see for Broadway shows, for movies, for all this stuff, it's just like so inauthentic because it's clearly what it is. It's just presenting what it is, which is we are trying to sell you this thing, and we're going to do these kind of cute, funny ways of selling, but it's obvious you're trying to sell. Yeah. And it's really the fact that this was actually, number one, a living, evolving art piece, and number two, a piece of marketing, I think is really why it caught on, why people loved it, because it really functioned as its own thing outside of whatever sales we were trying to do.
Yeah, I think people's BS meters are sky high now. I've been talking about this with people. Whenever I get consulted in to talk to marketing, social media, I always tell them all of my videos I keep specifically grainy and the audio isn't good. I mean, the audio is fine, but it doesn't sound like a Walmart ad. Like,
it feels real.
There's grit to it. It's a little bit blurry sometimes. Like, you have to keep that because everyone is automatically attuned to when they are swiping. If you see a video that is too well produced or I'm like, all right, this is an advertisement, even if it's not an advertisement. In fact, that's the thing that currently there was a run of shows that were made by networks that were 9:16, like standard. That was their whole thing. They wanted to make like minute and a half long, real format, whatever. They didn't take off because they all were shot like network shows, but they were just shorter and in vertical. So that was why, none of that like took off. You guys are the same thing basically, where it just looks, your room is sloppy. You know what I mean? Like I see no offense, but like here's another thing is that like
I thought my room is nice.
It could use it's a little cluttered. But I'm saying like another thing is that like your posts don't have a shop now tab under it. You know what I mean? Like your posts aren't made for that. Your posts
I think the way that the way everything sort of happened, none of it would have worked if the show wasn't good, you know?
Dad'll say, don't be queer, it's not manly to twirl. Don't plie, not in here, you're a boy, not a girl.
So I don't celebrate the truth inside. Father barks,
Don't just say,
so I can't pirouette. Then he remarks,
dancing's gay.
and my deepest regret is I can't show LGBTQ plus pride. I man up just for a minute, and I act the norm as I perform masculinity. Outside they're fighting a war, but in here I'm fighting expectations. I'm fighting expectations. Because it started with this almost game that people wanted to play with us in a way, because the first video was Andrew basically just laying out what the show was, and everybody got the game and was like, oh, this is such a great thing, like I'm marginalized, and we're all like playing this character that Andrew's playing together. And then we sort of played with that for a couple videos, and then we broadened it out to like, we're trying to cast our actor. We're trying to find Anne Frank. Yeah. And all the while while it's under this guise of we're looking for like the first Latinx girly Anne Frank or whatever, right? And so people get really excited about that. But then once we drop the very first footage that's actually from the show, and it's like, holy shit, this thing's not only real, but it's good. And that was a big part of it too, is this a real musical? Everyone's asking that, and that's driving a lot of engagement. But then at the same time, the day we reveal this is a real musical, it's actually really, really good and smart.
Our own survival relied on denial, but now we're free. No more a pretender, asserting my gender, embracing my sexuality. We no longer can live this lie, so to mine own self be true. Being straight was a curse that you helped me undo. Pain was my refrain when I would deign to hide. But now that you're here, now that we're queer, it's time to proclaim our pride.
That's where, like, if you went back and looked, like, the first video obviously did really, really well. And then it was like, okay, yeah, we're all having fun. We're all playing this game. But then once that, like, the first concert song came out, it was like, whoa, holy shit. Okay, now I got to see this.
I mean, sorry.
It's funny because people who come to the show, who I talk to, the things you hear a lot is people say, I've been following the Instagram for years, which is funny because we launched it less than a year ago.
Yeah, it was like March.
And the other thing is people are always like, so when did you write? They always think the Instagram came before the show. They're always shocked when they hear that me and Andrew had written an entire show before we launched the Instagram.
Yeah.
So it's this weird, it's like the fact that we had the show, we were still working on it, obviously, but the fact that we had written an entire show and then launched the Instagram, it kind of scrambled people's brains in a way because it's sort of everyone thinks the Instagram came first, which is maybe just a reflection.
Well, I mean, no one's
of
ever
our
done
lives.
anything like this before.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think. I mean, has there been another situation like
No
this?
way.
There have been a lot of situations where like people make a musical on TikTok and then it turns into a real world
Yeah, like
thing.
the Ratatouille musical.
Yeah,
they've-
exactly.
They've never had something where, look, let's just say this for the benefit of the whole theater industry. There has never until now been an instance where a show, an undeveloped show, already existed. The script and score were already there, and they started marketing it online, and then they got enough of a following to fucking open off-Broadway. That has never happened before. And it's kind of weird because it feels like now that it's been done, it feels like something that somebody should have done. There are some people doing it now. One of my friends, Ernie Bird, he got like more followers than almost every Broadway show off of one video of like a workshop presentation
What was the
of
musical?
one of his songs. I don't know the name of the song. The hook is like, I was in a cult, which I'm not making it sound good, but he blew up, and the fact that like
this musical sounds kind of shitty if you ask me.
the fact that all of these Broadway and off-Broadway things that they are 8 months behind us. Like And Juliet, and Juliet's marketing department took our thing of doing an Apple Notes apology, identity focused over a fake controversy and posting it to their show Instagram. They did that after we had been doing it every week for 7 months. Their marketing department finally started doing that. And that makes you think, what the fuck kind of turnover is this?
Okay, here's my question then. What is your relationship to the other musicals on Broadway? Do they hate you? Do they like you?
Probably both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you spoken to them? Like,
Well, we've had like a lot
has
of
Lynn showed up.
Lynn has not showed
Yeah,
up.
No,
just waiting us out with
Lynn,
this
I will say,
hey, Slam
no,
Frank crew.
So I will say we have a lot of people in common with Lynn. We've had fans go to bat for it, and both myself and the stage manager have run into him, and he has been very polite, a little uncomfortable, but very polite and a very decent guy. And if I were him, I would not want to see Slam Frank. The guy's been watching Hamilton parodies for 10 years.
I mean,
Yeah, and me and Andrew love Hamilton. It's more all the things that came after Hamilton, like what it wrought, but the show Hamilton is great.
do you know the tie-in with me and Hamilton? Are you
Yeah,
aware of this?
yes.
Are you Hamilton?
Are
No,
you?
Hamilton.
Yeah. Wait, do you know about this?
No.
Oh my God!
Do you know about this?
I've seen bits and pieces.
Yeah, I wrote the Hamilton parody that got made a couple of years ago. I won 2 AVN awards
my
for it.
God.
I wrote Hamilton.
You're
The
the
Hamilton-
you're the reason Lynn is not coming to our show.
No, Joel, Joel.
hi.
No, Joel.
Oh.
Hold on. Eitan, you left a word out of that sentence.
Hamilton.
You wrote the Hamilton
Porn
porn
parody.
Yeah,
parody.
porn
well,
parody. Oh, yeah, porn parody.
he
Yeah,
said
yeah.
it won at the AVN, so that
I won 2 AVN.
I put it together. I didn't
Not
know-
everybody knows
Wow.
what the
I
AVN
didn't know you're an AVN winner. That's
I'm
very
not. I'm a 2-time AVN winner, okay? Best clever title and best soundtrack, baby. But this is a real thing.
The Jews are taking back porn.
Want to see something funny? First of all, my parents.
that's so funny.
My parents hated this. This ruined their lives for a couple of months.
That's not what they told me.
We're showing the trophies I call first of all, this is, I mean, you can see out there, but this is fully.
That's amazing.
This is, I walked the red carpet with a sunny
what are you wearing?
I told her, I was like, we're gonna dress up in colonial outfits.
Yeah.
And go on the AV. So everyone else is like dressed in like duct tape.
Wait,
and
is that
ace bandages.
Ariana Grande?
No, that was
Who is
wait,
that?
1 second. Let me
Yeah,
find.
don't you remember?
That would be so funny if Ariana
Fucking
Grande was your
Ariana
date
Gra-
to the
Ariana-
AVN Awards.
Wait, should we
She's like, this is
Ariana Cynthia?
All right, you ready for it? This is the
space.
I'm
all-time
holding
funniest
space for
things
this.
I have ever done. Are you ready for this? Jerusalem Post. Yeshiva University grad wins porn Oscar for Hamilton parody.
Porn Oscar.
That is the porn Oscar.
It's the porn Oscar.
for
It was also one of the things. The second I did it, I was like, I'm never doing anything like this again. It was for a documentary back in the day. But I know for a
Such
fact
a
that
good
Lynn
headline.
knew about my thing. I have the awards on, and I know somebody that knows somebody. We were able to get a message to him or whatever.
No, we have a lot of connections to Lynn, but other people from musicals have come to see it.
Yeah, they
it's
love
like a lot
it.
of people love
last
it.
night David Bertka was there. That's Neil
Who is-
Patrick Harris's husband.
Oh,
This
well,
is we got to stop doing the trouble is like when theater celebrities come to see things like they're gods to you but nobody else knows it.
Yeah.
So I'm like guys, David Yazbek just bought a ticket. David Yazbek.
Well, we
and
did
then
have-
you go outside and you shout David Yazbek and people are like, huh? You go like, the writer of Dirty Rotten
I
Scoundrel.
mean, you're literally talking to a Met fan.
We
So-
had-
you know,
Because I've been in the room with freaking. Now I can't think of any Met
not
fans
even
now.
you know
Oh my
his
God.
name.
Well, we have a good amount of
I'll
actually the star of Anne Juliet came and saw Slam for it. Like we have a lot of really cool people have come. One celebrity that made us promise not to say, but a very famous actor came to the show and was like, what did he say?
He was like, he was like, I wasn't here, I was never here, and I loved it.
Oh,
Yeah.
Wait, famous actor?
Yes.
Tom Hanks, baby.
Yeah, it was
That's right,
Tom Hanks.
Tom
fan.
Hanks.
No,
and the
dude,
Slam
no,
fam.
Mel Gibson.
Oh my God, Tom Hanks together. They're dating.
Yeah, it was Mel Gibson, and then he called us all a bunch of Jews, and we all got drunk together.
Wait,
it
so
was
back
fucking
up 2
great.
seconds then. You guys, okay? So the people themselves, like the Broadway people individually, they like you guys. Broadway infrastructure or whatever, they're mixed or whatever. But is it one of those things where you go higher up the ladder, like just corporate Broadway? Because when I think about Broadway right now, we are in a time where Broadway famously has had their hardest year possibly ever. There's the revenue that's been made has been very 1%. I think that there was something like only four musicals over the past like
Yeah,
5
there's
years
4
of-
original musicals coming out in for Tony.
which is crazy because they don't have enough to fill the category.
Yeah.
And then there was something also, what was it? 5 musicals recouped.
Yeah.
Oh,
like
yeah.
last- in like
Yeah.
last
Yeah, and the
decade,
best one,
yeah.
and right now the front runner for everything is a British musical.
Operation.
So this is an American art form. Don't you fucking dare say otherwise. This is an American art form where we are, just like in the 80s, being consistently bested by British people. What the fuck are we doing? We threw the tea in the harbor. We got to be making shit. And also, by the way, that's part of why, like, when I'm talking about the marketing for these shows, it's part of why I'm so furious, is because there was a comment made about one of my favorite comments on the Instagram was, man, you've got to really love musicals to hate musicals as much as this guy does. And I'm like, this is such a foundational art form to America and to Jewish Americans and to all sorts, to people all over the world, and we are just letting it slide into garbage. And the fact that like somebody can get a musical as good as Dead Outlaw and
This is a musical I've
fumble.
not heard about. This is the second time you've brought it
It
up.
is.
Like,
I-
loves Dead
I
Outlaw.
have
It was
seen-
fantastic.
It was amazing.
There are 2 Broadway shows that I have paid money to see 3 times in my entire life, and this was the second one. And if you cannot get more than 5,000 followers on your Instagram for something called Dead Outlaw, you do not deserve. You don't even deserve to have residency in the tri-state area. You need to fucking leave the country and become an English teacher in Taiwan.
Have you ever called ICE on any of these people? So Broadway not doing well right now, and then we'll go back into Slam Frank. Just like if you had to pick like 3 reasons why Broadway is currently failing and why like there is no money, like what would be the 3 reasons? And yeah, like across the board.
I mean, I think a huge reason is just the amount of money that they're churning for these shows. It's like Broadway shows have become it's really very reflective of big budget studio filmmaking in Hollywood, where it's because the money has become so prohibitive to put on a Broadway musical. So they become so creatively safe, and they're so trying to appeal to the families who are vacationing in New York and all of this stuff. And because of that, they just become completely flat and uninteresting, and they don't last.
Yeah.
It's like you have like IP based stuff that like Aladdin can run for a while because that's what the tourists see, but they're not making anything challenging or interesting. And because of that, nobody wants to see the shows. And beyond that, they're churning whatever, $100,000, $200,000 a week to put these things on. So because of that, they can't build an audience. They just are burning too much money to do that.
Yeah, I just consistently think of Idina Menzel on the fucking redwood tree.
Yeah, absolutely.
No one saw that thing. No one knew it existed until it went viral, and people thought that it was a joke. And they're wondering, like, why is this not working? It's like you're paying Idina Menzel $2 billion to hang around a tree and not sing the song from Wicked. I mean, like, what do you want?
I mean, it's multifactorial. The first reason is cost prohibitive. The second reason is, and this is something that's kind of nobody's fault except the tech companies in the world we're in, which is that local art has disappeared. And so in order to, if you've got an off-Broadway show, you're not competing with other off-Broadway shows. You're competing with Broadway shows, and you're competing with touring shows, and you're having to market in this environment where a repertory company in rural Georgia is competing for ad space with a hit global behemoth, right? You can't have art survive in that kind of environment.
You have to get picked up by Sinclair.
Yeah, that's kind of nobody's fault. There's cost prohibitiveness, and everybody has the fingers that they point for whose fault it is, and the fact is it's all of your faults. The unions point to the theater owners, and the theater owners point to the unions, and then everybody points to the development process, which takes 13 fucking years, which means that if we had the development process today that we in the 60s that we had today, Hair the musical would have opened in 1982. That would have been the first hippie musical. The other reasons are who is making these things, and are they good, and what's their sensibility? And what you find is that the people who are writing a lot of these musicals, look, I've been in. Let me tell you, I was in the BMI workshop, the musical theater workshop, Collaborators Connection, and it was a circle of people who all look like NPR staff.
Do they know that BMI is a very silly what's it called, abbreviation?
Why? Because bowel movement something?
No, but body mass.
Yeah, I know. They did it first.
When I heard it, I was like, BMI, and they're like, what?
The BMI.
I say that.
The BMI workshop. It's for musical theater for fatties.
Tuba players.
But anyway, it's this Collaborators Connection. Everybody looks like if an NPR tote bag became sentient, and they're all being asked, like, what do you want to write? And we're just going around in the circle, and it's just a bunch of people who talk like this, going, I just want to make art that lifts up marginalized people. And then the next person goes, I just want to make art that lifts up marginalized people. And then the next person goes, and I swear to God, it was like this like joke that kept edging upward. And meanwhile, I'm like, man, you don't fucking know anybody. You have no connection to any of this. You just think that you should do it because you have some sort of guilt. You've never taken a shit in a hole in Western rural China. You've never. I did that.
That's the barometer that we use.
No, you've never.
They never real. They never lived outside. They're living in a box and they're in a theater circle.
I know artists who've like been in Syrian kill rooms, right? And the thing is, because of and they're making more interesting art than these people who are like, I'm going to write a story about Syrians. No, you're fucking not.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that also we're all making worse art because it used to be that if you wanted to like pay your taxes, you had to go in person to a place. You had to interact with other people. You had to do all these things. And now, if you are the type of, upper middle class person or upper middle class raised person who is down to write a musical, regardless of what your racial or gender or whatever background is, the number of times per week that you interact with a real human being with a real job where they do something with their hands is basically zero.
Yeah.
Sometimes you use a touch screen. And so these are the people who are making art.
No, they're indoor people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't touch grass. What do you think?
Why do I think Broadway's not
Yeah,
doing well?
3 reasons. If you had to pick the 3 reasons why Broadway is.
I mean, it's number one is the money thing. Like, it's completely unsustainable. Not just, and we're talking a lot about like just the actual price of putting up the show, but it's also unsustainable that like somebody's going to pay $800 to see George Clooney do Good Night and Good Luck. Like, that's insane.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
Except that is what was making a profit.
sure,
It's
but
great,
I don't
yeah.
think over time that's going to last. And like, you're not going to get a celebrity for every single show. So I just think financially it's insane.
Yeah.
To me, the thing, I love theater. Me and Andrew met doing theater. I grew up doing theater. And to me, the thing that's so beautiful about theater is the intensity and the immediacy of it. The fact that you're in the room with the actors watching it. And I feel like, at least when you're talking about big budget corporate theater, it has become so aesthetically conservative
Yeah.
and so 10 years behind anything that's happening, any ideas that are happening, anything that's bubbling up. And there's 100 reasons for that. But to me, that's a big reason that these large scale theatrical productions are failing, is because they just feel dated and they don't feel exciting and they don't feel alive. And theater is a art form that you can uniquely be alive and uniquely kind of attack an audience in a certain way. And you're just not seeing that when you see that in small, black box theater, but you don't see that on a larger scale for 100 reasons. But I feel very proud that our show is caught on because it is a very intense show and it is provocative and it does make the audience feel a lot of things.
Well,
and to me,
one of our biggest
people want
supporters
that.
is this lady named Jenny Gersten. She's an amazing producer on Broadway. She produced Beetlejuice, Liberation, which is up right now. And she's also the artistic director of New York City Center. And I had a meeting with her recently because she's just been like hugely helpful to us. She sends all sorts of really cool people to see the show. She's like, helping us look at bigger venues and stuff. And I was like, what is it about Slam Frank that like you love so much? Because, she's like, well, I like, it took my breath away. That's what she said. She said, I just like, it took all the breath out of my body and that's not happening on stage right now.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, what is so exciting about Slam Frank. And I think that's one of the big things also, in addition to like all the financial stressors that is killing Broadway.
Yeah,
Nothing
people,
else. This
people
is
want that.
shocking.
People
Yeah.
want that. People want to get the wind knocked out of them by art sometimes.
Well, let's talk about
they
that
want it.
specifically then.
Well,
I want to talk about the fact that, like, okay, controversy.
Yeah.
Obviously, controversy is baked into the fabric of this musical. What has that been like? How bad has it gotten?
Well, we've gotten death threats. I've specifically gotten death threats. We actually we got one of my favorite death threats of all time. So there was this one guy who was sending me death threats who ended up just being like a guy in Cincinnati or wherever.
Is that the curb stomp
And
guy?
yeah, he was like, I'm going to curb stomp you. And then he left what I think he thought was a very scary message in a voicemail that was like, hey, Slam Frank, I just want you to know you should be prepared because I'm going to show up and I'm going to bring my synagogue. And look, I want to be clear. If he had an Israeli accent, I would have been scared.
Yeah,
right?
totally.
I am coming to your show. I am bringing my synagogue. And what happens, happens.
Yeah.
If that had, I would have been freaked out. An American Jew being like, I'm going to show up with my synagogue. Like, fuck you, fucking loser. Wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be great if I say this and then I go outside and just get mowed down immediately? But, we got that. We had a lot of people who would like, I think something that's very interesting about the political climate is there's so many people who are so convinced of the stakes and they're so convinced of their idea of right and wrong that they will break basic norms. And so there were people who would misrepresent themselves as like, there was this one girl in Toronto who was like, I'm the attorney who worked on the logo for Hamilton. And I'm gonna, and and Hamilton is going to sue you. And I'm like, no, they're not, because that's fair use law. And she goes, no, I worked on it. And I look her up. And of course she didn't.
Yeah. Okay, so
Yeah.
controversy's been happening. Okay, what is the answer to that? You know, like when someone when someone tells you like this is anti-Semitic, this is problematic. You know,
They're feeding the fire. The great thing that is that people. It used to be that there was this beautiful little way of marketing your work, which is all you had to do was make like one church in Boston or Arkansas put out a statement saying, we don't like this. And then you'd be like, our song has been banned. That's how Only the Good Die Young, Billy Joel's song, took off. It was failing on the charts. And then one frickin' bishop said, I don't like this, and put it on like his personal list. And then they got to pretend that the Catholic Church was trying to ban this song, which it wasn't. That was what happened for decades. And then what happened is
this is a lucrative business to get into, by the way. I'm going to make a fake synagogue.
There you
Oh,
go.
yeah.
If you have a Broadway musical, come to me. I'll fucking find a problem with it.
Yeah. Just so what happened was all of these people forgot that that's how marketing works. And they'd be like, well, we have to shut this down. We have to do this. And I'm like, this is fucking great. You're giving us all oxygen. And all of these people who come after us, they are just increasing our SEO, increasing our footprint. And it's a beautiful illustration, I think, of how so many people who think that they're savvy are now behaving the way that church ladies behaved 40 years ago.
But what do you say to the people that are like, I mean, you're shitting on this girl's legacy.
Can
like,
let me. So we get a good amount of like people calling us anti-Semitic or whatever, and so I'm as you could probably tell from my face. I know I'm Jewish. I have two Jewish parents. I had a bar mitzvah, and one thing about me is that I didn't really identify like with my Jewish identity very much growing up. And, I kind of looked at it almost as it was like this like thing my mom made me do. You know what I mean? Like I'd go to Hebrew school and I'd be like, oh, I don't want to do this. And like, I'd feel like a nerd because I was Jewish. And so I never really like resonated much. Obviously I have a lot of very Jewish qualities, like my anxiety and my stomach problems, but like.
You work in musical theater?
Yes, I work.
You're smart and you're a good boy.
Exactly.
And you call your mother.
But like, I always kind of I was more geared to like rebel against that in a sense, and never looked at my Judaism as something like I was proud of or anything like that. It just was me. Slam Frank changed that 100%. I am now like way more proud of my Judaism because I think it's really fucking cool the way that we're dealing with anti-Semitism. And I would submit that like to the people that might think that what we're doing is anti-Semitic, that, well, we've been trying it your way for a while now. And how's that working out? Like,
pretty good. Things are good for the
yeah,
Jews.
things are great.
No, but you're 100% right. All these organizations, all the institutions, like I'll call the ADL out every single time. Like they have $1 billion every year that was supposed to go to preventing misinformation and anti-Semitism stuff. And on the regional level, sure, the ADL does an incredible job. If you're a synagogue in the middle of nowhere and the Klan shows up, they're there to help you. But on a national level, ADL and all the other organizations like it, what they've been doing hasn't been working. And I look at stuff like you guys do, and what you said is that you do to prevent anti-Semitism.
That's what I think too. Who do you think of in this exact instance? Who are like the coolest Jews? It's Mel Brooks, it's Jerry Seinfeld, it's Larry David making crazy comedy like
Philip
this.
Philip Roth, like part of what made like the goal. I think we can fairly agree is like 1960s through the 1990s, right? And part of what made that possible is there was this whole generation of Jews who had grown up fucking like my grandfather. To anybody who's worried right now, my grandfather had to learn to fist fight because he was a Jew in the slums of Philadelphia, right? Saul, oh God, I forgot his name, but the actor who did the playing Shylock thing in Brooklyn, he grew up having to he got rocks thrown at him in Montreal, right? That was how that generation of Jews grew up, with people throwing pennies at them. And then the Holocaust comes on the news, and then all of this stuff happens. And they grew up fucking tough as nails, not giving a shit. And you've got Joan Rivers, Mel Brooks, you've got Philip Roth having people like masturbate into a pastrami sandwich. And that's how they engaged with their Jewishness and with Jewish community. And they pissed off so many other Jews. And now looking back, we remember them as like, this is what shaped American Jewish life. And this is what made American Jews like confident
And the
and
generation under them got
empowered.
weak, got very, very weak.
Yeah, and then we got
laughing. We get very golden. We weren't. Once again, it's that thing where it's like we weren't the victims. We weren't being talked about all the time, so we had to victimize ourselves. And the way to do that is to identity politics.
Oh, I don't see enough. I don't see enough movies about me. What? You've never fucking seen Clueless? You've never seen Dirty Dancing? You've never seen Independence Day, a blockbuster film about the son of a rabbi saving Earth? Right? So there's all these people who've become, I think, weak and complacent, and there's this question of like, you're disrespecting, and it's like 6 million Jews died. Who disrespected them, right? The people who fucking murdered them. And now we are Jews living in the present, and we're looking at the future. If there is a future,
Yeah.
we're looking at the future.
But
And we're looking at
what
what
do you
is
say
it-
to the fact that people are like, yeah, but this is a girl. Like, why?
I mean, would I say that this is applicable to Jewish life and also just in general, is like art has got to have the ability to be provocative and to push boundaries. It's like we've lived in this incredibly, I've said it before, this very conservative aesthetic time in the last 10 or 15 years where this whole idea that if you create art that isn't lined up in this doctrinaire idea of what's right and wrong, you're doing something morally wrong. And that to me is so wrong and so antithetical to really human expression, because the whole point, like as humans and as artists, you want to explore the boundaries of our lives and our existence and our Judaism and all of these things. And you have to be able to create art that explores that. And sometimes you do cross a line. Sometimes you do upset people, but that's the nature of creating interesting, provocative, present day art that has been just muzzled and pushed down. And that's a huge thing that me and Andrew are pushing back against with this show that we always bonded over, is this idea of like art has got to be allowed to push forward, because that's the only place where it can happen.
Yeah. I also think that there's, if we look at the 1950s version of The Diary of Anne Frank, the play and the film, it is done with great reverence, right? She is portrayed as this preternaturally wise woman in the body of a 13-year-old girl who says things like, deep down, I still believe that people are good at heart, as the strings soar, right? And it's all in black and white. And meanwhile, this is somebody who was killed in a concentration camp, right? Being, good at heart, right? That level of reverence, I think, is offensive because it strips people of their flaws. It strips them of their humanity. And part of what made the 1990s version of The Diary of Anne Frank so much more human is they put back in her messiness. They made her obnoxious, and they made her immature, and they made her horny, and they did all of these things that made her human, so that instead of seeing the Jews as this besieged, people, right? You got to see them as fucking human beings. And I think that so many of the people who are upset at Slam Frank, they haven't seen what Olivia Bernabe is doing on stage with this person. They may be, you're disrespecting her legacy. Suddenly, Anne Frank is spunky and sexual in the way that like a teenager actually is, and has deep thoughts, and is capable of so much nuance, is capable of good and evil, and is also patently ridiculous in the way that we've made her. I think that if you can't acknowledge darkness, then you have no light.
Is there any hesitation to talking about some of the other topics that are brought up? Like, there's a lot of trans issues that are brought up, and the non-binary stuff. The mental spectrum stuff. Is there anything else?
The mental spectrum represented here at this table.
Inside of us, there are 3 Jews.
Along those lines, there is, when things become untouchable, things become inhuman. And I remember I was at a table reading of a new play that had a trans character in it. And this character was so juicy. It was, you're looking at this play and you're just like, if I were a trans actor, I would want to sink my teeth into this, because this character was just such a bitch. She was so complex and dark and twisted. And I remember sitting there and I was going, nobody's going to produce this ever, because they're going to be afraid of some activist who didn't get the role deciding, well, this doesn't represent us.
Was that Dead Outlaw? No.
Yes. And that was Dead Outlaw. And so there's this thing that happens that I think is really driven in part by the representation police.
Do you think, I mean, so on the representation police, like it's an all white male, I got to bring this up, all white male, creative team and stuff like that. Was there any hesitation to making jokes or anything about that? Okay. That's the answer to that.
Yeah. Here, I'll throw this out, because this was something I was uncomfortable with 15 years ago, and I'm a lot more comfortable with now. There's this idea, we're still going like, oh, these are a bunch of white men, right? And it's like 15 years ago, I would walk down the street in Brooklyn and someone would go, keep walking, Jew boy. And then I would go straight from that interaction to a meeting somewhere in Manhattan where somebody would tell me that I don't know what it's like to be targeted because of who I am. And now we're living through a Hanukkah where every single day there are multiple attacks on Jews, on Jewish institutions, and things like that. So, I'm probably supposed to give like a kind diplomatic answer to this, but it's like, if you think that I'm supposed to sit back and acknowledge my privilege, when if I go outside with this on, I don't know if I'm going to get punched in the face or not, go fuck yourself. Yeah. Go fuck it. That is not valid anymore.
I mean, the next part of the question of this is the difficult one. Now, I'm not going to ruin the ending or anything like that. Israel comes into play so what is your opinion on October 7th? No, I'm joking. What is that? But like,
good. I think fairly positive amongst the three of us.
I will say,
it's a bunch of genocidal Zionist Hamas supporters.
So, Eitan, we did have an October 7th survivor who came to see the show and loved it. He was, of course, injured while paragliding. But
it's like that, like the Hedwig and the Angry Inch joke. Like my uncle died in the Holocaust when he fell out of a guard tower. But here's the question, though.
He was a martyr.
You guys get. Once again, we're not spoiling the ending here, and this is, of course, not a conversation about October 7th or Bibi or any of the government stuff like that. Israel exists. I got family over there. I'm sure, based on what I'm looking at now, I'm sure you got something out there also. Mm-hmm. Israel comes into play at the end of the musical in a very specific, very heightened, crazy. When people talk about it, I literally just have them go the scene. Because of that scene, you guys have been labeled anti-Zionist or Zionist or, so talk on that. Like, is the show anti-Zionist? Is the show Zionist? Is the show pro-Israel? Is it?
Well, Andrew should speak on this, but I just say you just kind of put it perfectly. Whereas that I've been told, I've gotten messages personally that are like, this show is Zionist trash, and I've gotten messages being like, you should be ashamed as a Jewish person for this anti-Zionist, like this anti-Jewish presentation. Yeah. So the fact that we get both of those sides, to me, is reflective of what we're trying to do.
Yeah. Well, there are many misconceptions out there. I think partly because everybody's gotten really stupid. It never occurs to our critics, one, that you can make a work of art that doesn't actually have a clear message, and that is, as I described it, almost like an experiment, right? Two, that you can have a team that has people who don't agree on things. Or three, that an author can make something where the effect is more important to them than representing their own personal views. There's a film that has had a tremendous influence on me is Dirty Harry. And Dirty Harry, like Roger Ebert was like, this is a fascist film, right? The guy who wrote Dirty Harry was a lefty. Mm-hmm. And he was asked, why did you write this screenplay from this perspective? And he said, because I knew that if I took this angle on this issue, that it would be like fucking lightning striking in a theater. And I wanted people to have that feeling, right? Nobody who is worth listening to is going to see an off-Broadway musical and going, well, I've completely changed my mind on geopolitics. They're having an experience. They're on a roller coaster. And so what we're trying to do, the decision-making process at every turn has been, what is in keeping with the play we're making? And what is the most effective gut punch or laugh that we can get in this moment to take the audience on a complete journey. And in the process of doing that, we've created this thing. And if anybody wants to look more into it of like, this is propaganda, you know, they're certainly welcome to do it, and they can write as many think pieces as they want to get our SEO going higher.
It's funny. It's like I feel like there used to be this feeling that theater, books, film, like any art is about, you can create art that's just asking questions and is about interrogating a question. It is not about giving you the answer. It's just about presenting a question. We have questions about how it feels to be a Jewish person today, how, like, what it means to be a Jewish person right now in 2025. And that's what the show is interrogating. And I feel like so many people now come to the plays or come to movies and are like, okay, tell me exactly what I'm supposed to think. Tell me exactly what you think and what I'm supposed to take away on this issue. And to me, if you want to do that, you should just be a politician. Just like go and give a speech. It's like, that's not what art is good for. Art is good for these gray areas. It's good for interrogating these kind of weird, nebulous areas of thought where you don't have a clear answer necessarily. That's the point of it. That's what art can do that just political speech can't do, really. So to me, that's what it's about. It's about the question, and it's about the ideas, and it's not about where we fall on any of these issues specifically.
There's an interesting thing about this where you have to do it on stage. And once again, we're not going to talk about what actually happens there, but there is a lot of physical actions. There's a lot. The scene is wild. It is. I say this as the heavy-handed compliment. It is the most offensive thing I have maybe ever seen.
Yeah. Thank you.
And I say that as like, yes. But the thing is, like, that's what I loved about it, is that my personal take on it is that, like, when people are like, it's pro-Israel, anti-Israel, anti-Semitic, I'm like, what the fuck did you just watch? Like, it's not pro or anti anything. Yes. Even my thing. You have to do it though on stage. So what is that like, to go out there and do a series of actions that, like, holy shit?
It's like one of my favorite things I've ever done in my life. It's that moment that you're talking about is, and then basically to the end of the show, is exactly what I was describing earlier, where I'm like, I'm fighting anti-Semitism right now. Yeah. That's what's in my head. I can't speak for the other actors, obviously, but like, I feel like that's me going, hey, I'm fucking tough. I'm a fucking tough Jew. And like, this is me being proud of being a Jew, and in a way that I never have before. Like, and it is because of this show, and it is because of what I get to do. It's because I get to look at somebody that's against Jews and be like, do something worse, buddy.
Not about October 7th, but the past 2 years, Judaism and being a Jew and even just having connections to Israel. Like I said, my sisters live out there. This isn't a conversation about that, but like, doing that stuff after October 7th, it feels like there's even more, obviously you guys are so balls to the walls and you're like, we'll do anything. It doesn't make a difference. Like, this is all about crossing every line. He's like,
it's so funny because one of the times we did that moment, these two like whiteys fucking stand up out of their chairs and go, "This is disgusting," and they storm out.
Like, I don't watch people walk out. I have watched people walk out.
I'm pretty sure they weren't Jewish too, which made me really happy. They might have been, but like I
mean, I'll throw this out there. So far, every single Jewish woman who has walked out of our show straightens her hair. Now, there's nothing, I'll say this, there's nothing wrong with straightening your hair. You do you. No, you do you. You do you, right? There's nothing wrong with that, right? It's your own personal style.
Yeah.
Once it happens in aggregate, I start going, how proud are you? Maybe we should we edit this? I don't know.
No,
I want to say
I like that. That's perfect.
A huge influence on me. Stuff like, there's this Spike Lee film, Bamboozled. And also growing up in the era of gangster rap, right? And seeing this generation of fucking Bill Cosbys, right? Go pull your pants up. How dare you put that out there? And I think about like the embrace of the stereotype that happened, where it's like, man, we just spent 20 years putting on suits and talking this way and making sitcoms where we are cheerleaders and football quarterbacks and doctors. And people still think we're fucking thugs. So let's just go out there and just fucking do it, right? And I think about the film Bamboozled, and for people who don't know, it's this Spike Lee film about Damon Wayans is this TV producer who basically, as an act of spite, creates a minstrel show for network TV, and it ends up being a hit. And one of the things Spike Lee does is he films it so beautifully. And one of the performers is Savion Glover, who's this world-class performer. And so you're up there watching this thing that was so degrading to Black people and was held against them for a century and a half. And suddenly you're looking up at it and you're watching them and you're in awe of these artists and that act of taking that power back. And so I think about, like, how tall does that make you feel coming out of that? And what I've found is like the moment that we're talking about, I remember one of our producers who's Jewish, he had seen it the first time and he was shocked. And you're a producer, you have to watch it over and over again. The second time, he's like trying to make sense of it. And right around the third or fourth time, we're walking out of the theater and he goes, man, when that happened, I just thought to myself, I just went, yeah, here come the fucking Jews, right? And it's like, yeah, don't fuck with us. And he's like 10 feet tall. And I think about like what it means to actually deal with these things is you can go out there and you can say, that's offensive. You know, it's the South Park episode. Jewish stereotypes are terrible. You can go out there and you can whine and complain, or worse, you can be Alan Dershowitz and like be like, my lawyers are gonna come after you and be the stereotype in the bad way, or you can fucking grab it. What does it mean to be a mensch? What does mensch mean? It means man.
Do you guys get more when you guys get messages and when you guys get people that like, I loved it, you know, from the different side, is there a side that comes at it more than the other side? Like, do you get more like, this hated Israel, this loved Israel, this was anti-trans, this was a trans love story? Like, is there one demo, or has it been just across the board, like an even split pretty much for people?
I think it's a pretty even
beautiful.
split.
It's
Pretty even. Yeah. There was a moment in the beginning where almost everybody who got it was like center right, or libertarian, and then everybody who fought it was on the left. That was until about a month ago when Fox News and Twitter found the show, and then it became very across the board.
Oh, that's kind of nice.
Yeah, I know.
Natural evening.
We're bringing everybody together.
Has Fox News come to see it?
No.
Has CNN come to see it?
No,
there are. So.
We've had the New York Times. We've had,
and you guys were named as one of the top comedy things this year on the New York Times, which
was very offensive because. Do you think this is funny, no. Jason Zimmerman? You think this is funny?
Did you, Jason Zimmerman? Last question, and then we're gonna kind of wrap this up. Is that the actors who come in there, broad spectrum of people. Have there been any hesitation? I mean, you're an actor, you can at least speak to this, but like Olivia, for instance, who is awesome. She's they are awesome. They're playing Anita Franco, which they're not Jewish. They're going out there and they're doing this like wild interpretation of it. Like,
so many messages. Like someone from the comedy community in LA said, "How come they're not Jewish?" And immediately all the comments were like, "Wow, gatekeeping much?"
Well, but the other so here's the funny thing is Olivia was also getting shit from people who were saying you're not Mexican enough, who thought that they were white. But there was also people.
I don't think she's Mexican enough. I don't think they're Mexican enough.
There were also people who thought they were Jewish, who we cast a Latin performer whose dad is from Mexico, and all these people go, look at this human being, look at the skin and the hair and everything, and go, oh well, you told us we were going to have Latino representation, and now we're just looking at another Jewish person, and I'm like. Well, doesn't that tell us so much? You know, and there was somebody who was really pissed that like, oh, there aren't enough queer people. And I go, our star's literally non-binary. And they go, yeah, well, you should have advertised that. And I'm like, oh, so I should take this person's identity and I should make it as obvious to everyone as possible and then plaster it on all our marketing materials so that you, a white girl with an undercut, can feel more comfortable with how we treat
I
minorities.
feel like that would be very Slam Frank Instagram, though, is that if you were just to put
Oh,
up
we
the
did.
headshots, yeah,
We
exactly.
did
Just say
that.
like, yeah, Jewish, Mexican,
Yeah, we were
Probably gay.
yeah, maybe gay,
Yeah.
gay.
no, the Instagrammer Tianaco directly inspired
Oh, that's
that
funny.
through the messages that she sent to us and our performers.
Last question here, because I do think we are really heading at it. Has there been anything that has not made it in because you were like, this is too offensive?
Too
no.
offensive? No.
So there
There's a lot of
was
cuts we made, but not because it's too offensive.
It was just for time.
There was-
Yeah,
It was
exactly.
offensive how long it was.
Yeah, exactly. It was offensive how boring it was, but it
Yeah.
was not offensive in any other way.
I think that there is, there's this idea of like you'd never get DEI meetings in a firehouse, right? A firehouse is a place where all these people are
This is
they're
your version of
making
there's no atheist in a foxhole.
no, it's
Yeah, in a firehouse.
it's you've been in all of these workplaces where there are where everybody's saying the right things, but there are all of these tensions. And then you go to like these places where people are literally like calling each other slurs and saying all these horrible jokes about each other and their identities, and they would literally die for each other because they understand the stakes. And everybody who signed on to this project, they signed on because they thought it was really fucking good and they thought it was really fucking funny and they got it. And we thought that we were going to get physically attacked on stage. We thought people were going to charge the stage. And so everybody up there, we're like, I would die for you. And because of that trust and because of that fearlessness, we've got a group of people who, when we tried to there was this moment
I don't
that
think they
like,
had to do this for Susicle.
well,
Rosie O'Donnell carrying Aaron,
Carter.
Yeah, Aaron Carter.
Amazing Maisie.
Yeah.
So there was a moment where we were under a lot of pressure from outside to cut this one moment that Austin Horn, who plays Edith, was supposed to do that was very offensive to one black woman who came to see the show. And we start trying to cut it, and Austin's like, no.
Yeah.
No, this is my moment. And there was a moment when it even like got kind of identity based. She was never like, she wasn't a jerk about it, but she was like,
Austin is, by the way, she's a black woman.
she's black, and she's kind of going like, there is something funny about this team of white boys trying to take away this moment that I love
this line.
because it's offensive to another black lady.
Yeah.
right?
And she was basically like, you don't pull any punches in the rest of the show with all the other characters. Now you're going to pull a punch in my big moment in the show, and that really is the mentality of the company.
Yeah, there was a moment when I started getting cold feet about one of the like Jewish stereotype moments, and Alex Lewis goes, "Fuck you, fuck you, I'm doing it, and you can't take it away from me." There's the whole idea of punching up and punching down in comedy. Which, by the way, the terminology for comedy should punch up and not punch down comes to us from George Carlin, who had a whole routine about how anorexic teenage girls deserve to die. So, which tells you like how much that actually means.
Yeah.
But also, the very idea that you can punch down at somebody means that you think they're beneath you. And something that like Austin made very clear to us was that what makes it was subtextual, but it was what makes you think that I can't take it, that everyone else can take it, but I can't. And so at every turn, we've come from a place of, I think, genuine respect. Genuine respect is seeing other people as resilient, seeing them as intelligent, and seeing them as capable of taking the same things you can take.
Is there there's that moment where you're calling out other like theater people in the musical itself. I feel like that is the only time where you're like, actually we don't respect David Mamet.
Well, I will say no. So this is a perfect illustration of like, what do these people believe, right? That line is not there to shit on David Mamet. David Mamet's a huge influence on me. Huge influence on me and on this show.
It's a shit on the people that would say, fuck you, David Mamet.
It's not even to shit on it. I was like, what's the list of writers that will get me the best response in the best order? And I remember I got to that and I said, if I have this woman up there saying, fuck you, David Mamet, I know that every female theater maker I know is going to burst into applause. and it happens every time.
So it's clapter. What you're saying is that you've gone for clapter. You pulled out the art form.
Well, it
The
might be
lowest
clapter.
common-
It might be that I found something that'll unlock something in them, and I'm unlocking it. It could be a million different things, whatever it means. But it's really about art is about effect. You know, when you're in to do let me go into an analogy here that'll definitely hopefully get us in trouble, right? If you're getting kinky with somebody, you're not going like, oh, what we're doing here is we're actually interrogating power and we're interrogating gender roles. You're going like, I'll bet you'll like it if I do this. You're making them feel something. And that is what art is supposed to do.
Last question here, and then we'll wrap up. Just this interesting thing about like how you've created a persona, and I think a lot of people don't know if you're real or not. You've done this interview as like the real Andrew Fox versus the Andrew Fox that is online and like wrote this thing and is a character.
I got a very like I had a whole like email thing right before this interview, so you're definitely seeing like fiery Andrew.
Well, the whole thing is that like we've been trying to get this going, this specific interview for like a little bit now. And I feel like we did get to a point where finally you're like, okay, like I'm able to do, because we could not do this interview with you as the character. Like there's just no possible way. I remember early on we were talking about having like, you would do it or you would do it and then you would like back off. We've gotten to a point where you're able to do it as Andrew Fox. What was the turn there that like, you're like, now I'm finally okay to talk about this as Andrew Fox?
I mean,
person.
Well, to be perfectly honest about it, it's been an internal conversation about the Instagram. And the Instagram is a piece of performance art, and it sort of like follows the rules of pro wrestling, where it's sort of real, but it's not real, but it's real, but it's not real. And ever since the show actually opened, I've just been like, man, the jig is up. You know, the jig is up. Everybody knows that Vince McMahon actually owns WWE, right? And because the jig is up, there's a certain point where you just kind of go, if I go on a podcast as this guy, people will know that it's a different guy. And also because on the Instagram, I can be that guy. On a podcast, I can't. I do not have the Sacha Baron Cohen gene. I cannot sustain that for 8 hours.
The last question I'll have for this interview, of course, is we got to ask the crew, Slam Frank, is it Jewish or is it anti-Semitic?
I think that Slam Frank is like you when you're departing an El Al flight after having been in that cabin with everybody else for like 9 hours.
I would say
which
that
is
Jews
you
are
Jewish and anti-Semitic.
Completely. Jews, we bring a lot of anti-Semitism onto ourselves. I'll look to the camera and I'll say it. The way that Jews behave in airports, I mean, I get it. I get how, I promise you.
And movie theaters.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
This is the kind of thing Hitler was on his way getting from Frankfurt to Berlin at an airport. It was sitting next to a bunch of Hasidic Jews and was like, oh my God, I gotta fix this.
No,
I gotta step in here.
I gotta go to bat. I love Hasidic Jews in airports.
That's not what I thought you were going to
They're my
say.
favorite people.
That's probably the hottest take
And when I was
delivered in this whole interview.
I still remember I was flying around in Latin America, and every single time I saw one of them, I'd just be like, Baruch Hashem, muchachos.
Yeah, oh my God. Time to take up the entire row with our stuff. All right, wait. Jewish or anti-Semitic? Well, okay, so you're going Jewish and anti-Semitic. You?
I mean, I'm the same. I think it's Jewish and anti-Semitic.
Yeah,
I think
both.
it's just like me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the only answer is that it's both.
I will give the answer here, is that I think, as someone who has seen this thing a couple of times now, I'm going Jewish on it.
All right.
I go fully Jewish on it. I've been asked about this a little bit. Here's what I will say. Whether you guys know it or not, I get a lot of DMs about you guys. I get all of the companies and all the projects and whatever I talk about, for some reason, I become the conduit for people that have questions. I have had people DM me asking, why their order was backed up on a Manischewitz website. I believe it or not, I got nothing to do with that element of the business at all.
That's the most Jewish thing in the world is to complain about your Manischewitz order to the wrong guy.
I on stage ask people, I ask non-Jews that I find, I go, who's the worst Jew of all time? And they always, it catches them completely off. And a couple days ago, I was doing this in Boston. The guy went, Barbara Streisand. And I'm like, what about Jeffrey Epstein right there? There's a clear answer to that.
What about, no, guys,
So
Henry Kissinger. There's literally, there is the Cambodian genocide only happens because of Henry Kissinger. And like,
I'll tell you who's not the worst Jew of all time. Miriam Adelson, baby. Okay, she gets it. She thinks I'm funny. She's a Leviniac. She's a
Leviniac. The fuck is a Leviniac?
Oh, listen, you gotta be a cog in the Levine machine, baby.
Leviniac.
Here's what I will say. We're gonna wrap this up now. Is that I consider Slam Frank 100% Jewish. It is not anti-Semitic because in my mind, the concept of anti-Semitism, I think Jews in general, we have really, Jewish or anti-Semitic started before October 7th. And it was started because I thought Jews were way too beholden to the concept of anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism, it requires a malicious intent. It requires me being like, I don't like Jews and I am acting the way I'm acting because I inherently don't like Jews.
Can we make that the quote? Where it's just you saying, I don't like Jews.
Inherently, I don't like Jews.
Wait, get the quote of me. I don't like Jews.
But the thing is that Slam Frank, there's no malicious intent with it. Like, whether you can make the argument that it is inappropriate, you can make the argument that it is exploitative of Anne Frank, you can make